Greetings! My name is Robert Lamb. I was a Filmation storyboard artist and staff writer from 1981 until the studio closed in 1989. Join me here at Lamb's End as I share my experiences and memories of Filmation and the enduring legacy of the shows we created, including He-Man and the Masters of the Universe.
Working as a writer and storyboard artist at Filmation was one of the best times in my career. I've done other interesting and rewarding projects since then, but 1981 to 1989 were the golden years for me. Lou Scheimer, Arthur Nadel, Hal Sutherland, Bob Arkwright, and the gang were a joy to work with, a very talented bunch. Digging deeply into my vault of old things, I have found photos of old friends I thought I had lost a long time ago. I don't have photos of everybody, so my apologies to anyone left out. If anyone is curious about what it was like to work at Filmation in the big 80s, these photos should give you a glimpse. First up, a group photo of the storyboard department at the second annual HAL Awards banquet, which was held at the pizza place next door to the Reseda studio. We gave HAL awards for the worst Fat Albert stock scenes in the syndicated production we just finished. You can see how prestigious the ceremony had become by the presence of some coats and ties. The first HAL Awards, held after the first season of He-Man, was an impromptu affair where we let off some steam brought about by the Filmation stock system. I know that many people complain about the repeated use of the studio stock system, but it was necessary for survival. Still, we chafed at having to use the stock animation, especially if it wasn't that good. So we threw ourselves a departmental rap party and voted for the worst stock in several categories. The Little Eggman Toy Awards were named after Hal Sutherland as a kind of tribute / revenge on his revisions on our boards. Next, memories of the storyboard department, around 1986. Shows in production at that time would have been Filmation's Ghostbusters and Bravestar. Take note of the abundance of stock books on the shelves. The general working conditions, i.e. clutter, were entirely at the discretion of the artist occupant of each room. The Reseda location storyboard wing usually had 2 artists per room, with one exception. We had doors we could close to cut down on distractions and play our music louder. The Woodland Hills studio was nicer, but we had cubicles instead of rooms and had to wear headphones to not disturb others. I wish I had taken more pictures of more of the Filmation family. At the time, I didn't expect it all to end like it did. I kept thinking I would get around to photographing more, but like waking from a dream, it was gone. Bob Arkwright. Affectionately called Barky sometimes, Bob served as storyboard supervisor from 1983 into 1987. He led the department through both seasons of He-Man and the Masters of the Universe, Fat Albert and the Cosby Kids, She-Ra, Princess of Power, Filmation's Ghostbusters, and I think most of Bravestar. Bob also directed the opening title sequence of Bravestar and some of the episodes. Egidio Victor Daucelli. Vic was Bob's assistant storyboard supervisor when this picture was taken. Vic started in the same apprentice storyboard program that I did in the 1981 season. We became good friends and applied to Lucasfilm after we were laid off at the end of our first season. No, we didn't get on there. Vic was my office mate during He-Man and Fat Albert and best man at my wedding in 1985. Vic storyboarded my first solo She-Ra script, The Eldritch Mist. Gary Goldstein. Gary had an interesting approach to his storyboards. He would cut up the script and paste the action descriptions and dialogue lines under the panels before drawing a single stroke. When he finished that phase, Gary would have the page and scene count, even though all the panels were blank. His skill and experience were such that he knew what he would put in each panel and at what pace. His boards were always strong, tight, and told the story well. Mike Cisnowski. A fine storyboard artist who consistently pushed the creative envelope within the confines of the Filmation system, Mike always did a first-class job on each show. David Prince. Some of the board artists who worked on He-Man and She-Ra preferred superhero shows and left Filmation for Marvel Productions when Filmation's Ghostbusters started production. David Prince and Yi-Chi Chin were 2 animators that moved into the department after taking the storyboard test. Flammarion Ferreira. Our wild and crazy artist from Argentina, Flammarion, like Dave and Yichi, answered the call to fill our storyboard vacancies. He had worked as a background artist on the He-Man She-Ra feature, Secret of the Sword, as well as visual effects. He also painted backgrounds for Pinocchio and the Emperor of the Night. Hannah Strauss. She was one of the few female storyboard artists in the animation business at the time. As I recall, that was also the case in the animation department. There were more women in the assistant animation department and a majority in the ink and paint department. Hannah commuted to the studio on a bicycle and removed the front wheel to prevent theft. She kept the wheel by her desk and proudly displayed it when I snapped this picture. Paul Scarzo. Film buff, funny guy, good all-around storyboard artist. In Filmations last year, Paul and I worked together on a couple of Bugsburg boards. Yichi Chin. Both Dave and Yichi brought a draftsmanship to their boards that other storyboard artists lacked. As animators, they had been drawing the characters on model for years, and it showed in their boards. Character poses and action were their strengths, and they very quickly gained confidence in background staging. Here is that exception to two artists in a single office. This trio is Al Ziegler, Carl Torg, and Rachel Brenner. This trio was the office newbies during Filmation's Ghostbusters. Al was the quiet one, Carl the cut-up who nicknamed me the Blamster. He collected multitudes of toys, including, of course, the Ghostbusters toys. In the 1990s, I did storyboards for Carl on the Wild West Cowboys of Moo Mesa series for ABC. Rachel had a hippie vibe that I could never tell was a put-on or the real deal. She had a great sense of humor, which was much needed considering her roommates. Her interpretations of scripts lifted them from the mediocrity they could have been. She was another rare, fine female storyboard artist in a zoo of boys. And then there's me, laden with She-Ra stock and same-as books. This was after my writing run with She-Ra Season 1 ended. I returned to the storyboard department and took over where Steve Hickner and others left off, collecting non-stock scenes that could be reused, called same-as scenes. Even then, we could see the handwriting on the wall. The other studios shipped everything after storyboards overseas. If we didn't keep our costs down, the same would happen to Filmation. Though that didn't threaten the storyboard department, we didn't want to see anyone else lose their jobs. So for the next 2 years, I dedicated myself to identifying and cataloging reusable animation under the title of Storyboard Production Coordinator. For a closing shot on this batch of photos, here is a view of the storyboard wing of the Reseda studio on moving day. From here, we relocated to the new facility across the San Fernando Valley in Woodland Hills, California.